say too, when it comes to energy and excitement, that can be overdone.
Oh my goodness.
You can go overboard. So you just want to make sure that you're energetic but not obnoxious. You want to make sure that the person holding the sign isn't like literally like doing jumping jacks and acting
like an
just
idiot.
Ridiculous. Okay. It can be a little tempting to be a little overbearing with making them feel like, man, you're new, you're welcome here. You know, we're excited that you're here.
You need to have some emotional intelligence. You need to have some discernment. If someone is a little standoffish, they're probably more of an introvert. Imagine it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, if they're not
coming
smiling,
to a place,
if you try to hug them and they don't hug you back,
right? They do
they
this.
just do one of these.
Yeah. So you want to read people, and you don't want to be overbearing.
Right.
So we want to have that element of
nice,
excitement.
healthy balance.
We just always want to remember, we want them to walk away and say, wow. So whatever area you serve in, you have to think about, like, what would someone say after encountering the area I serve?
Yeah. Welcome to the Small Town Big Church Leadership Podcast, a place where pastors, church leaders, and volunteers can grow themselves and the local church. We're pastors Brad and Misty Helton, church planters in rural America. What if I told you that most first-timers decide whether they're going to come back to your church within the first 7 minutes? Yeah, we're talking before the message, before the music, probably before they drop their kids off at kids' church.
Yeah.
And here's the real question. When a VIP family pulls out of your parking lot after their first Sunday, what are they saying in the car on the way to lunch? Are they saying things like, wow, man, that whole parking process was just really impressive? Are they saying, wow, everyone was just really kind, like they were very genuine, they really cared? Are they saying, wow, the kids had a blast and they're begging to go back next week? Are they saying, wow, I felt God in the room in a way I've not felt in a long time, or maybe never at all?
Yeah.
Are they saying, wow, man, we have to bring so-and-so back with us next week? You know, that kind of wow doesn't happen by accident.
That's right. Today we're talking about the wow effect, what it is, why it matters, and most importantly, how to create it with purpose and consistency in your church. All right? Because here's the truth. Every wow moment your first-timers experience is a result of intentional planning, prayer, leadership, and systems. From the lead pastor's vision to the parking lot volunteers, every single detail contributes to that first impression. And whether or not a family is honestly going to choose to come back, as you said it, Brad, we really have 7 minutes. 7 minutes before they decide if they're returning a second time.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we're going to unpack some of the most important questions our team should be asking long before the doors open on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. So the wow statements that we shared just a moment ago are great examples of the type of feedback that we strive to hear from new families. But these types of comments, they don't just happen without a lot of intentionality. Okay, so let's dig into the crucial questions that we should be asking ourselves in order to create the wow effect we should be striving to achieve as a church family.
So some of those questions that we ask ourselves, and that as church leaders or business leaders that you want to ask yourself, is, what do people see? Like when they first arrive, what do they see? What do they hear? What do they smell? What do they feel? Okay, so when they first arrive, now for all of us, here's what happens is you go there all the time. This is like your home church. You serve there. You're used to what you see.
Yeah.
You want to be thinking about, what do people see who have never been here before? I think about years ago, I heard an analogy of an old couch, okay? It's like having an old couch in your basement. You are comfortable with the old couch. You like the old couch. You have memories with the old couch. You don't think anything about the fact that when someone steps into that area, there's an old couch. But if someone were to walk into your basement, that had never been there before, are they going to think, ew, that's a nasty old couch? Because they don't have the memories. They just see it. And so as a church, we have to think about the senses and what everybody takes in, literally, even subconsciously. Guys, they're not thinking to themselves, for instance, wow, this bathroom is immaculate. But if the bathroom was dirty, they would notice, right? And they would remember that. They would remember what they smelled. I literally heard somebody just this week say they couldn't figure out why they liked a certain scent of like a Scentsy, okay? And one of their kids said, I know why you love it. And their mom said, why do you think I love it? And they said, that's what church smells like. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow, I hadn't heard that.
She loved this new scent and she didn't know why. And the reason she loved it, and she agreed, she was like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Wow.
Because that little thing here at Mountain Movers, we use Scentsies in every zone because we want it to smell good, right? Okay, well, so what are some others?
Well, so I think about things that I see. If I'm a brand new person, I've got my family in tow. I'm driving down the street to the entrance of the church. If I see what we call this person the front man. Okay, that's the person that is standing out at the entrance with a sign, and they are waving.
So they're a part of the parking team.
They're part of the parking team. So that is literally the first impression of all first impressions is that person. So
literally the first person someone sees.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I see that person smiling big, man, they are professional. They're approachable. They've got a smile on their face. They're energetic. They're waving big. That's what I see.
Yes.
And that's a huge first impression because it just really makes you feel like, man,
they're excited.
There's something going on here. They're excited, so there must be something exciting happening at this church.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next question, and we could go into that all day long, the last question, but let's move on to the next one. Is the atmosphere energetic? We were kind of talking about that. Is it exciting? Now, we could overlay it into the last question because we didn't talk about what you hear.
Right.
In regards to the atmosphere being energetic and exciting, at our church, we have music. We have speakers mounted to various buildings around the campus. So when you get out of your car, you're going to hear some praise and worship music just thumping. Not overly loud. It's not overdone. It's not overbearing, but just kind of
enough to create some energy
when
in
you
the
get
atmosphere.
out, you're like, wow, man, this place is like, this is exciting. This is hopping. So you've got all of these elements working together. You've got the parking team. They are full of energy.
Yeah.
They're happy. They're excited. You hear the music in the background. This is creating some real atmosphere. And I would say, too, when it comes to energy and excitement, that can be overdone.
Oh, my goodness.
You can go overboard. So you just want to make sure that you're energetic but not obnoxious. You want to make sure that the person holding the sign isn't literally doing jumping jacks and acting
like an
just
idiot.
Ridiculous. Okay. Maybe this could be the temptation to be a little overbearing might fall in the lap of those who are your hosts and hostesses. That's what we call them.
Right.
So when you're coming through the doors of the church, and we've identified you as being what we call VIPs or a first-time family, it can be a little tempting to be a little overbearing with making them feel like, man, you're new, you're welcome here. We're excited that you're here. If you're not careful, it can be a little overbearing because some people are not as social as others.
Right.
Some people are introverts.
Well,
and it really,
as a volunteer,
it can be overbearing.
You need to have some emotional intelligence. And I think we're going to do a podcast on this in the future. But
have some discernment.
You need to have some discernment. If someone is a little standoffish, they're probably more of an introvert. Imagine it's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, if they're not
coming
smiling.
To a place.
If you try to hug them and they don't hug you back.
Right. They do
this.
They
just do one of these.
Yeah. So you want to read people. Yeah. And you don't want to be overbearing.
Right.
So we want to have that element of
nice,
excitement.
Healthy balance.
We just always want to remember, we want them to walk away and say, wow. So whatever area you serve in, you have to think about what would someone say after encountering the area I serve?
Yeah.
Another thing that we want to be asking ourselves is, are we helping people feel comfortable? Like we're taking the stress out of their experience, okay? One of the ways that we want to make sure we do that is training volunteers that when you see someone who seems like maybe they're a little confused, maybe there's a little deer in the headlight
You need
look,
to read people.
or we've been to places that we've never been before, and you don't realize people might be watching you, but you're like looking around because you're trying to figure out maybe where's the bathroom, or like where's the coffee shop, or how do I get into the sanctuary, whatever. And so we want to make sure that we train volunteers to spot those people, okay? To recognize when someone is, possibly confused, so that you can step in and just introduce yourself, right? Take the stress off, because remember, you know where everything is. They do not.
They don't.
Okay? And so you want to be able to spot those people. You don't want anybody to ever have to feel stress. We want to help them to understand, man, we want to value you. We love that you're here. And so you want to go over the top to help them to feel like they're welcome. You want them to be here.
You also want to take the guesswork out of
what do I do?
What they're supposed to do.
Exactly.
So because that causes people to put their guard down.
Yes.
And it causes them to relax, and
Yes.
and it becomes a less stressful experience. So helping to park them smoothly, giving them the exact place to park, it just takes all the guesswork out.
Absolutely. And, I think about the fact that if a family has kids, and most of them do, at least if you are a church like ours, we're attracting a lot of young families with kids. You want your kids to go into kids' church and have the best experience as well.
Yeah.
So although that is past the 7 minutes, those are areas that you also want to question. When kids are walking away, are kids saying, wow?
Yeah.
Are they going on and on about how much fun they had and how nice the people were? Are they asking mom and dad, can we go back? Can we go back next week? I was hearing somebody talk about this the other day, and they were saying, you could preach a really bad message as a pastor. You might have a day when the message wasn't that great, but if your kids, if a new person's kids had a great time in kids' church,
And they're begging to come back. That family's probably coming back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you preached the best message you have ever preached in your life,
And the parents are convinced,
and
this is phenomenal.
yes, and they loved it, but the kids leave kids' church and they did not have a great time.
That was boring.
Guess what? They're not coming
They're not
back.
coming back.
It doesn't matter how many hours you spent on that phenomenal message. If the kids are not enjoying being in kids' church, they're not coming back. And so it's not just one area. It's collectively every volunteer, every staff member making sure that we are thinking about these questions of wow, let's wow them. Let's talk about once they come into your sanctuary, okay? This is normally where we focus all the attention, okay? And we've got to make sure that the first 7 minutes, that experience is wow.
Yeah.
But once they come into the sanctuary, for us, we want more than anything for them to experience God's presence.
Yeah.
And so we are very intentional about having, honestly, for us, we have a Saturday prayer team that are here praying over the sanctuary and the zones. But we also, like the worship team, they pray over every seat in the sanctuary.
This is big
before
for us.
they ever even take a mic in hand to go through a tech run
tune their
on a
guitars.
Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I think about the message, Brad, and we always work hard to make it relevant, to try to be creative. But when we're speaking, if you've been to college and you've been to seminary and you study the Word of God, it would be very easy to step into the platform and to deliver a word that goes right over the head.
So deep and so rich.
And they
so
might
theological.
think to themselves, wow,
he's really smart.
She's really smart. She's really smart. That was really deep.
Yeah.
But here's what we want them to think. Wow.
That hit me hard.
Can apply that to my life right now.
Right now.
Right now.
I know what to do when I walk out that door.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to put it into action.
And so there are elements to the message, and we could do another podcast on this another day, but there's elements to that message that we want to make sure that we are being relevant. If we're taking an Old Testament passage, what does that have to do with them today?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're being intentional about the way we put our message together so that when they walk away, they say, wow. is changing my life.
Yeah.
Wow, I can apply that today.
And one way that we can do that, especially when it comes to the message, is by asking ourselves the question, have we eliminated as many distractions as possible while this message is happening, while the worship is happening?
Absolutely.
Have we eliminated distractions? And that falls in line with making sure that our team that we call our worship hosts are seating people in the proper places in the sanctuary, so that if they have a little with them, that they can exit very quickly and very quietly, as to not be a distraction to the rest of the congregation that's trying to focus.
Why we would
moment.
bring the lights down during worship.
Exactly.
You know, why would we do that? Because we want to eliminate distractions, movement. We want people to feel comfortable if they wanted to go to the altar and pray, if they wanted to lift their hands and worship.
If we want the Holy Spirit to bring conviction to people's hearts, and we do.
And people are crying.
Yes.
You know, they don't want the lights full on.
Yeah, we want people to be able to engage with God in a real and meaningful way, and they can't do that with distractions. So we have to ask those questions.
And really, in that personal way, like, even though you're in a room with hundreds of people, we want to help them to feel like it's just you.
Like you can have a
and God
personal
right
encounter
now.
with God.
Yes, absolutely.
So these are all questions that we should be asking ourselves, you know.
And our teams
and our
on
teams,
a regular basis.
And if you're a leader, then asking these questions with your volunteers and going over these things on a regular basis. So these questions are powerful.
Yes.
They generate really a to-do list, a checklist to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to make sure that first-time families have the most incredible experience possible, especially within that first 7 minutes when they're making that crucial decision as to whether or not they're going to come back. All right. So we hope this content has been a blessing to you today. We hope that it's been helpful to you. We encourage you to share it on any social media platforms, anywhere that you view or listen to this content. Let's just get it out there because we truly want to help as many churches as possible to grow. We want to see the kingdom of God grow as we reach more people than we ever thought possible. So thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.